Well, good evening to each and every one of you who are viewing us on Facebook as well as YouTube. We're really excited about tonight's empowerment session, financial empowerment session. Listen, the first thing I want you all to do is I want you to share. I want you to share tonight. And then also, I want you to invite others. One of the things that we've come to understand in this pandemic, and as we're coming out of this pandemic, is a lot of individuals struggled financially, and we put in place financial empowerment to be able to empower you to live through crises when they come, but also to give you the life that you want to have. Listen, so many of us, we want to travel, we want to purchase certain things, and there's a system to do that where it doesn't break your bank, it doesn't cause you to struggle, it doesn't cause you to have to rob Peter to pay Paul. So tonight is going to be really important, and I'm going to now turn it over to Deacon Santana Johnson, who's been leading us in our financial empowerment. Invite someone, and share it. God bless you. We love you.
Hello, everyone. This is Deacon Santana Johnson. I am very excited about tonight. We are being offered the opportunity of Truist and SunTrust presenting to us in the area of budgeting. This is when you talk about wealth, most people are concerned about how much they make. That's not what dictates your ability to be wealthy. It's how much you save. I had a Jewish mentor told me years ago, never tell me how much you make, tell me how much you save. And that habit is going to be the catalyst for you building wealth in your future. So while sometimes budgeting may be painful, it is the lifeline to building wealth. So with that being said, I am now turning it over to Ms. Brenda Ballard, who is the branch manager of the Fernandina branch, SunTrust Truist branch. So we're going to turn it over to her. We're going to let them have the stage, and let's get ready to learn.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for allowing us at Truist to participate in your financial empowerment sessions. We present Banking on Your Success as an empowerment program for our community, and it gives us an opportunity to participate in our community's well-being. So thank you for inviting us, Pastor Cotton, Deacon Johnson, the St. Paul staff and members. We really appreciate this opportunity. I did manage St. John's Town Center that's now merged with the BB&T office. We're becoming Truist as we speak. And I have several of my colleagues and my boss on the phone, and we're all going to participate in helping you guys learn how to budget. So I have Austin Davis. He's with BB&T, my colleague, the branch leader at St. John's Town Center now. I have Todd Dukes, Julia Clements, and Lauren Nguyen. I will allow each one of them to introduce themselves and say a little bit, and then we will move forward with our budgeting program. Austin?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of this evening's presentation. My name is Austin Davis. I'm the branch leader for the BB&T and SunTrust blended branch, now Truist Bank, located in the St. John's Town Center. I am going to turn it over to my partner, Julia Clements, who's on the line to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Julia Clements. I'm a branch leader at Fleming Island BB&T, now Truist. I was on the call last year, and thank you for welcoming us back again. Glad to be here. Last year, I was covering the Atlantic Beach branch for BB&T, so kind of shifting around a little bit. But really excited to be here, work with you guys today, and I pass you on to Todd Dukes, who is another colleague of ours.
Thank you for that, and hello and good evening. This is Todd Dukes, the new manager at the Ortega BB&T branch location, just transferred in from Tallahassee, where I manage the Florida State University branch. So happy to be in town. I happy to be a part of this. Lauren, get on.
Okay, Lauren has not joined us yet. I'm sure she will get the opportunity to come on and introduce herself. And we are introducing ourselves as resources in the community so that if there are any needs or any questions or any part of this program that you wish to have done at a different location, we are available to assist you. Today we're going to do the family budgeting portion. We have a number of opportunities to meet with you over the next several months. We have a class next month and the following month. And hopefully our partnership with St. Paul will allow us to work with you guys each month through the end of 2021. I wanted to say that the topics that we are going to be sharing over the next few months will help us attain a stronger and more vibrant financial future. And that is our goal, is to make everyone financially well. After the last 15 to 18 months with the pandemic, there has been a lot going on in our communities. People have lost jobs, they've had their job hours reduced. And we want to be a part of rebuilding and structuring a way for you to, if this happens at any moment in time again, to be prepared. And the learning skills that you will get from us this evening will help us throughout anything. And I know budgeting sounds like something tough, but we're going to make it easy for you. Austin?
All right, so we're going to turn it over to Julia, who's going to get us kicked off with tracking your spending.
Julie, did we lose you? Julia? All right, I think we may have lost her, so let me just move forward. The family budgeting course is the second in our financial education series called Banking on Your Success. And in this course, participants, all of you who are participating, will learn 5 key steps to developing a solid family plan to help them to develop a strong foundation for a successful financial future. Here are the steps that we will be covering in the program: tracking your spending, developing a useful budget, start an emergency fund, manage your debt, and focus on your future. This program is designed to provide you with basic overview of these steps, as well as the tools that they can use in the future for further reference and development. Our learning objectives: upon completion of the family budgeting course, a participant should be able to understand why it is important to track all of the money he or she spends and useful ways to do so, how to establish a reasonable budget for everyday living, why an emergency savings fund is important and useful ways to create one, different ways to attack existing debt, which is really an important one, why getting rid of debt should be a focus for a strong financial future, ways to save for the future, and how to take control of his or her finances.
All right, it looks like Julia was able to join us. So Julia is going to kick us off.
She's probably on mute. Unmute yourself, Julia. We're not getting anything.
It appears Julia's having some technical difficulties, so I'll get us kicked off. How about that? Welcome to BB&T, now Truist Bank on Your Success program. We've designed this program for you to learn about key elements of banking to help you up for success in your financial future. This session is entitled Family Budgeting. Today, you'll have the chance to learn 5 key steps in developing a solid family budget to help you on your way to a strong financial future. We will present certain topics for future discussion with your coach on site, and you will be able to participate in different exercises and activities throughout our time together. So let's get started. When you hear the word budget, what comes to mind? I know. Some of you guys are thinking, I don't want to live within a budget. And the fact is that many people think a budget is limiting. But hopefully, after today, you will see that living within a reasonable budget will give you more freedom and fewer limitations as you progress through life. We're going to discuss how you can take control of your finances and live in a future that you want and instead of a future that's created for you. Sounds pretty good, right? There are 5 key steps that Brenda talked about. Number 1, tracking your spending. 2, developing a useful budget. 3, starting an emergency fund. 4, managing your debt. And lastly, focusing on your future. Let's begin today's review, let's begin today by reviewing the first step, which is tracking every penny you spend. When we've asked people where they spend their money, we've received many different responses. Here are a few that I've heard most often. One client said, I kind of know where I spend my money. I look at my checking account every day to see what my balance is, but sometimes I'm not aware of when a check or debit transaction clears. I'm not that great at it. Another client told us they don't track it. I figure what I don't know won't hurt me. I used to track my spending all the time and it stressed them out, so they just don't worry about it. And finally, my last client told us that she balances her accounts out to the penny. She uses apps to keep track of everything. It takes her 10 minutes a day to download her transactions and categorize them. That way she knows where she stands every morning before she leaves to work. The best strategy of those 3 is to track everything you spend. And yes, you need to track it to the penny. We know which person we should follow, right? You guessed it, the last one. At this stage of the process, we are most concerned about gathering data, not judging how you spend your money or make drastic changes to your current money management habits. When you see something written down, you may be motivated to live more frugally. You may find you are spending too much on fast food, or maybe the cost of commuting is way higher than you thought. Let's get you started on your journey. Julia joined us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry guys. So we are on page 10.
11.
11. Okay. Sorry guys for the issues here. So what we're going to go over now is the expense worksheet. To be sure you understand, if you guys can take that out and take a look at it. Got a couple questions for you to start off. Can anyone answer how they currently track their expenses?
Hey, Julia, I can tell you personally, I put everything on credit card.
Yep.
And I pay it off in full every month. That way I don't have to track multiple accounts. I can kind of keep a glance at everything at one time.
Excellent. Thank you, Austin. I kind of do the same thing based on that. I always like to, for the safety factor of a credit card, utilize that for my expenses. But then, you know, like you do every month, I pay it off in full. So I always know where I am in my budget so I don't overspend. Just transfer the money right from my checking account. So that's an area that I follow you on that, Austin. How about anybody else?
Well, this is Brenda. I'm an online junkie. I look at my bank account every single day. So I manage it by watching it to make sure. And I do that only because I was hacked at one point and I decided that I'll be more proactive. So I'm not sure how other people track it, but I'm telling you, online is your friend.
Absolutely.
And for those of you following along with us at home, I just wanted to give everybody a reminder that the workbook is on the church website. So if you go to the church website, you can find the workbook and follow along with us.
Kind of piggybacking off of what Brenda said, you know, if I look at my parents' age, my grandparents, and a lot of times they would get their monthly statement and they would look at their expenses for the prior month, and that makes it really difficult. Sometimes you forget what you did, and then like for fraud, even catching that. Being proactive every day, being able to see what you're spending kind of makes it more real to you and kind of easier to keep in the forefront of your mind where your money's going and where you are each day. So, All right, guys. So now, why do you guys think tracking expenses is important?
I would say, kind of similarly what we were just talking about. You want to track your expenses to know where your money's going, because a lot of times we do things on the spur of the moment, like, I really want those shoes, I really need that, and before you end up, you got more month than you got money. And so tracking your expenses kind of makes sure you stay on track, like that you are going to pay everything that you need to pay, and then what you have over for savings and wants, and make sure that everything's going to fall in place so that you don't run out of money for the month.
I like it.
And let me add, you don't want to create an issue where you have unwanted late charges on cards because you went oops and forgot to pay, or an overdraft fee from the bank because oops, I didn't have enough money in the bank. So you want to make sure that you track every expense so that you won't incur additional expenses.
Yeah. And that's just using example for people who do a lot with their debit card or credit cards. I mean, if you think about it, how often do you get a $20 bill and 1 second it's there and you break it and it's gone? So even cash, holding yourself accountable and jotting down how much you have and where that money's going, that's just one way to help you be accountable and just know where you're at with cash, with debit cards, all of that. Anybody else have any feedback on that? All right.
Julia, there's a chat box. Can you see it? I don't see any anything.
Yeah, there's nothing on there.
Okay, so if you guys want to answer that via the chat box, we'll be more than happy to share it with the team.
Absolutely. All right, so on to the next question. So like everything, there are some challenges that can come up and barriers that you can be faced with when trying to do a budget. Are there any participants in chat room too, if you'd like, who would like to answer some of the barriers or things that they might have that hinder them to be able to do a budget successfully?
Emergencies, unexpected events that may cause you to spend money on a credit card or something that you don't really have.
Yep. Some could be, for examples, saving receipts is kind of a hassle. So you find it hard, you throw it away a lot sooner than you should. Or you just forget what you spent. So you forget to write it down and you don't have it to follow up with.
Yeah, I think, Julia, that's what I think of sometimes is I spend a lot, not money-wise, but many transactions, many small things. Yeah. And it seems overwhelming to even think about trying to track it all. So then sometimes I just don't do it.
Exactly. And I'll say when you're in a relationship, married or living with someone, sometimes it's hard to budget if you have two people taking money out and you don't always know what the other person's doing as well as you should for a budget. So that can kind of be a difficult thing for me. Anybody else have anything? Anyone in chat?
I would say one thing that my mother used to struggle with her budget is kind of like what Todd said. She would do a whole bunch of very small transactions. And then when she didn't have any money left, she's like, but I only went here and spent $3. I was like, yeah, but you went 10 days. Like, that's $30.
Yep.
And so those little transactions add up, and just tracking that seems to be a big hassle. And oftentimes it can seem like a lot of work. And so a lot of people choose not to budget because of that, just because it makes it so much harder to try to track your pennies. I think another major issue is that a lot of people split their direct deposit into multiple accounts. Mm-hmm. And so you're swiping this card and then you're swiping this card and you're robbing Peter to pay Paul because you don't remember which card was used to pay for which. And so it's a lot harder to track it over multiple accounts. I mean, some people have one or two, but there are people that have 4 or 5 or 6 that they're trying to juggle, meeting the guidelines for those accounts as well as making sure that the money is there.
Yep.
Julia, the other thing is making sure that you account for every expense that you have. A lot of times you don't sit down and put pencil to paper to see exactly what our expenses are. And if we don't do that, we can easily have something fall through the cracks.
Yep. Very good. And one of the things that, I see when I'm working with clients in the branch a lot is you see different stages. So you may talk about doing a budget, but you really have to commit. Some people say they want a budget, but then they really don't want to know where they're spending their money, because then it becomes real and they like to just, out of mind. So really one of the big things is you have to find that stage in your life where you're like, okay, I am going to do this. I'm committed to budgeting because I want to retire someday, or I want to live and be able to have a little entertainment in my life, but I have to save to be able to do that. So you just have to make that commitment and then put the pencil to the paper. All right, guys. So why do you think tracking expenses is so valuable? Anybody in chat? Oh, I did get someone on Facebook. They said that they feel like they don't have the time to budget. Yep, that's a huge one. Time is of the essence. Thank you for that.
And you have to be committed. I think that's the real important, is that once you decide to budget, and everybody should have a budget, but you got to commit to it. I'm not saying that I've committed to a budget over the years, but I've always had one. It has worked semi-well, but as we've moved into the pandemic era and the way our lives have changed over the years, I think it's imperative that at least we can put something on paper that we can see and manage daily.
Yep. Absolutely. I think last year with COVID, I remember this conversation, this meeting last year at this time, and we were just going through the beginning stages, and people had to get creative. People had to realize different ways or find different ways to be able to feed their family when they were losing their income. So things like that, improving your future comes with information. And I think every day that we commit to trying to budget, and we are realizing the different barriers that block us, we can learn from every one of those events and really get better at budgeting as we go. So tracking expenses is definitely valuable. And I think when you start to see the shift in improvement and being able to have a little extra income for future use or emergency use, I think it can definitely be a satisfying feeling. So definitely encourage people to jump on the budgeting train. So the final stage on this portion is explain how, like, the expense worksheet. If you take a look at that, it's broken into different categories, and those categories will help you track and get a thorough analysis of where you're spending your money. So on there, you have the expense type, some childcare, clothing, debt payments, housing. On this, it's broken into weekly, monthly, and yearly. There are some expenses that you have, like your tires. You're not always going to need that money for tires. So on that section, you may break it into a yearly expense of, let's have $150 or $200 set aside for anything that might happen with the auto. Clothing, rent, housing, same thing. If you are going to budget it on a weekly, a monthly, or a yearly expense, you would break each category into how much you want to set aside for that week or that month. Okay. So that is all I have, everybody. Passing on the torch, is it Brenda?
I think so. And I wanted to say one other thing is please carve out a bit of time for enjoyment. If you like a movie occasionally or like to go out to dinner, treat yourself at least once a month and add that as a part of your budget.
Most awkward.
So this next section is going to be on developing a useful budget, and I'm going to present that section for you guys. So as Julia pointed out, keeping track of everything you spend can be extremely time consuming.
I had to have my camera on.
She stopped. But you're not on mute.
It's a really time consuming process, but it's one that's worth the time, right? To make it easier, you can use money management software programs and mobile apps to help you in your efforts. The point is we have to do something, right? After you've collected the data on your spending habits for a few weeks or even a month, you should develop a budget. Did you know that 55% of millionaires develop and live on a budget? Most people have a negative reaction when we talk about living on a budget, and many that I've worked with over the years have shared their experiences about these processes. So I'm going to share a few of these experiences with you today. Jane told us that she tried many times to live on a budget, but it never worked for her. She said it made her feel too focused on money, and then she feels like she can't live her life how she wants to live it. She knows she should be saving for her future, but at this point in life, she just really doesn't care. Alyssa told us she really tries to live on a budget, but finds that it's unrealistic with her expectations and fails to stay within budget every month. And that can be extremely overwhelming and frustrating. Many people fail to live by a budget because it appears to be limiting, or it may be boring to create, or they just don't know how to do it. Developing a budget, though, is a great way to keep yourself focused on the personal goals you have determined to be important. In some instances, you'll need to kind of trim the fat, right? Maybe you'll need to limit the number of times you eat out for lunch. But if you keep focused on the long-term goal of buying a home or saving for retirement or enjoying a family vacation, these small sacrifices may not seem so difficult overall. Let's take a few seconds to talk about this a little bit further. So in your workbooks, there is a page called Calculating Your Gross Monthly Income and the Income Expense Worksheet. Take a look at these two pages. I'll hold it up because I can't really show everybody. Calculating your gross monthly income, and then the income and expense worksheet. Cool. So now we're going to start developing a useful and reasonable budget. So once you calculate your income, you come up with the amount of money that you have left, your total gross monthly income, right? And that is the number that you're going to use to come up with your monthly budget. You'll put this number on the income and expense worksheet in the total monthly income field. And then you're going to use the budget that you did with Julia to come up with your expenses for that month. And you'll put that number in the total monthly expense category. Now, if the number is positive, you have money left over, it's great. You have some excess. That means that you're living within a budget and you're on your way to financial freedom. If, however, there is a deficit, that's when we need to talk about trimming some of the fat. What can we eliminate to put ourselves in budget so that we don't have more month left than we have money? What do you guys have to say about budgeting? So, Lauren, I'm going to ask you since I can see you. What would you say about using an income and expense worksheet? You're on mute. Still can't quite hear you, Lauren. I'm going to hop over to Brenda while you do that one. Brenda, how do you use the income and expense worksheet?
Well, first of all, you need to have money to pay your bills. So in order to know what you're paying, you need to have the expense worksheet to see what's going out every month. And for those of us who only have one job, what's coming in every month. And you want to make sure that your income outweighs your expenses instead of your expenses outweighing your income.
Cool. So one of the things you can do if you find out that you have more month than you have money is it may be time to search for another job or an additional job to help supplement your income, or you need to find a way to budget and cut some of your expenses. Todd, do you have an example of a situation you've encountered or personally experienced where you may have had more money or less money than month?
Yeah, there's one time a while ago where came into a bonus situation, right? So I had some extra money, and it was not something that was budgeted or expected. So what do I do with this extra money? And so we're going to learn later about eliminating debt, how that can empower one to help eliminate the debt rather than use that money elsewhere that doesn't help the budget. So that would be an example of here I had some money that I didn't expect, and easy come, easy go. Let's not do that. How can I place this appropriately so it helps the family budget and work better that way?
That makes perfect sense. So now that we've covered the expenses and your income, I'm going to turn it over to Brenda, and she's going to cover the next portion for us.
Thank you, Austin. All right, what I'm going to talk about, when you're trying to create a budget, you need to use caution and to make sure that the cuts you're spending are realistic. You do not want to make deep cuts in the areas where you really need to spend money. For example, if you have a family of 4, your food budget must take into account your entire family's needs. Can you live on $250 a month in groceries? Is that realistic for you? Will you be able to meet the budget, or will you fail every single month? Be sure your budget can be met and is actually a useful tool in managing your family. Many people live paycheck to paycheck and figure that they cannot save. However, everyone can save. I always tell people to pay yourself at the end of each paycheck because it'll be great. You'll be grateful for it in the long run. It's just that it takes discipline to do that. As a part of your budget, you need to develop an emergency fund for the things like unexpected medical or car expenses. The most important thing we can recommend when starting an emergency savings fund is to pay yourself first. What did I just say? You must make this as important as paying your mortgage, your rent, your electricity, and any of the other bills you have. Make sure you take care of you. We work 40 hours at least a week, and we should be able to pay ourselves as well as getting paid. I have a couple of examples. Elizabeth saves 10% of her gross income with every paycheck. She set up an automatic transfer from her checking account to a savings account that she entitles My Future. That way, when she gets paid, the money is directly deposited into her checking account, and then 10% of her gross pay is transferred directly to her special savings account. In 1 year, Elizabeth has been able to save almost $5,500. The next example is looking at Peter, who doesn't have a job that allows for direct deposit. So he asked his bank to set up an automatic transfer of $50 to be transferred from his checking account to his savings account every Friday. After 1 year, he saved $2,500. He has said that many times he wasn't able to do that, and now this method works for him because he never sees it, and now he's changed it to $75 per week. Everyone is different. Let's take a moment to determine the recommended amounts of savings you need for your financial situation. Remember, if you save money automatically, you will not be as tempted as you get used to it. Okay, how much should we save? Commitment to save for my future. There's a copy of that in your workbook where you can go in and make a commitment about how much you intend to save. You want to be sure that before you get to that, you understand what we're saying. And then you want to make sure that you don't save so much that you don't take into account the expenses that we've had from the expense worksheet. So I wanted to turn you guys to turn to that page in your workbook just to take a look at how much should you save. It's just a little tracking sheet that kind of tells you percentages at the varying ages. So at 30, you should save 0.5%. At 35, 1%, 42%, 45, 3%. At 50, 4%, 55, 5%, 66%, and 67, 8%. I did a calculation based on a $3,000 a month salary. If you were 30 years old and you save 0.5% of your $3,000 a month salary, that's only $15. You would think it would be a lot more, but that's a little bit of money. If you're 67 and you save 8%, that's $240. So in essence, if you split that into, I don't know if you get paid weekly or bi-weekly, you can split that money or those savings into whenever you get a paycheck, have it automatically taken out and you won't see it. And it'll be smaller pieces rather than one lump sum of if you're 67, it is $240. But if you're 30 and it's only $15, you might want to look at saving more than the $15. So if you really look at it from a perspective of having a tracking system in terms of how much you should be saving per your current salary, this gives you a rough idea on how much that amount would be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, etc. Any questions before I move further? I would love to hear someone in the chat room so we can all share your thoughts. Because I think people are quite surprised when they really sit down to look at their monthly income and work from a perspective of looking how much should be saved per week, per month, per pay period. You find that it's a lot less than we think. I can tell you, I can spend $15 a day on just lunch. If I chose to spend $7.50 on lunch and save the other $7.50, I think I'll still eat the same, just be from a different restaurant. I'm just saying. So it's pretty easy. And as you can see, it suggests ages on what the targets might be. And what this chart states is that you need to develop a plan. That's all we're saying, to allow yourself to reach your targeted goals. At a minimum, you want to save for the future financial success. I can tell you, I don't know where we're going to be by the time you retire with Social Security, but we need to understand that will not, our lifestyle changes on a minimum budget, but what if there isn't Social Security to go along with your retirement? So you want to check out your savings calculators located at, there's one on our website. If you have a calculator, onup.com is a very great place to go. It has many different kinds of calculators, but in particular, it will help you to develop a savings target amount so that you can put that into your expense budget, whether you do it weekly, monthly, or annually. Make sure you set realistic goals, because it is important to know that even though you're paying yourself, it won't cut from the things that you absolutely consider necessary for you and your family to live. So if you'll take a look at the commitment to save for my future, this is just a document for you to put something in writing and commit to yourself that you are going to do that. So it says and I'll say Brenda Ballard, commits to save at least, let's say $300 each month to help secure an emergency fund and provide for a better financial future for me and my family. And then you just want to plan to do this by, and then there's several lines. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines that talks about how you're going to stay on this commitment and what it'll take for you to reach your financial goal. And then you sign and date it and look at it, make it a part of your budget. Look at it whenever you look at your budget to make sure that you've saving enough money to have a great financial future, and second, that you're not taking away from your family's weekly, monthly, or annual needs. Do you have any questions? Okay, well, the next part of the budget, I'm not sure who's presenting. I'm so sorry. Who's the next?
Todd's up
Me,
next.
Brenda. Can you hear me?
I think I've got it for managing debt.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So now that we've all established our spending habits, learned how to establish a reasonable budget, and have a jump start on creating an emergency savings fund. Now it's time to attack the debt. Whew, let's get to that. So debt is a killer when it comes to managing your finances. Maybe you struggle with heavy credit card debt or even student loans. There is a method to help you manage the debt that you have, but you will need to be patient and consistent in this effort. Let's take a look at how this works. First of all, you need to know exactly how much debt you have. Then order your debts from the lowest to the highest balance. Pay at least the minimum balance on all debts except the smallest balance. All right, so then where you should make a larger payment on that smaller balance based on your budget. So for example, if you have a credit card with a balance of $5,000, another credit card with a balance of $7,500, and a car loan for $15,000, pay at least the minimum balance for the car loan and the $7,500 credit card, then pay more than the minimum on the $5,000 credit card. Using your budget, designate a fixed amount you will pay monthly toward each debt. Then, when the smallest debt is gone, work on the next smallest debt, and so forth. So, in our example, once you pay off the $5,000 credit card balance, you will increase the amount you pay on the credit card that has $7,500 on it. And you'll use the same amount that you paid on the credit card that had $5,000 on it. So this will create a snowball effect and it'll help you pay down your debt a lot faster. Always make sure that when you add extra money to your payment, that you state it should go towards the principal loan balance amount. One more thing. Once you get out of debt, try not to get back in it, right? There's a lot of work to get out of it. We don't want to get back in it. So limit the credit cards and other loans to emergencies only. In fact, one credit card is really all you need for emergencies and other expenditures. The real key is to spend less than you earn each month. When you begin to pay off your debt, you will feel a great sense of accomplishment, and you should. It takes discipline. That's a key word, right? It takes discipline, but it's worth it to have the freedom to choose how you spend your money. In the workbook, there is a form that says, what is your debt strategy? What does good debt look like? And what does bad debt look like? So I wanted to see if I could find, so let's identify what good debt is and what bad debt is. So good debt and bad debt. So good debt would include anything you need but can't afford to pay for up front without wiping out cash reserves or liquidating all your investments. So in cases where the debt makes sense, only obtain loans for which you can afford the monthly payments. There are three types of good debt. So for example, a home loan, all right? $100,000 or more. Typically, we don't have that resting in a checking account where we just buy a house for cash. So a good debt loan would be for a home. An auto loan would fall under good debt. College or student loans would fall under good debt. Bad debt, I think we know most of that right off the top, don't we? So that'd be credit cards, right? That's bad debt. Interest is really high. And that's would be in that category of bad debt. So on this example that we have on your form, there's a scenario here. So based on what we just talked about, here's a story about Mary. She has gross income of approximately $45,000 on an annual basis, and spouse has $65,000 of annual income. She has incurred the following debt for the first 5 years. So There's a loan, home loan. They bought a house for $195,000, and monthly they pay $750 for it. There's an auto loan of $25,000, and the monthly payment on that is $225. There's credit card balances of around $15,000. The monthly payment on that is $300. And student loan balances is $1,500 with a monthly payment of $25. So, based on what we talked about in ordering our debt, how do you think we should plan on attacking this debt first?
Hey, Todd, I would say we need to tackle the student loan balance because it's the lowest one, and we can feel really accomplished after knocking that out pretty quickly.
Precisely. Thank you for jumping in there, Austin. It wouldn't take us long to, based on our budget, to pay off and get rid of the $1,500. That's one that's out of the way, and now we can take that extra money and apply it to the credit card balances of $15,000. I see a question on here, and Lauren, feel free, or Ms. Ballard to jump in. It says, when wanting certain payments to specifically go toward interest or principal, do we have to call the company to state that information, or can that be done via an online payment? Does anyone want to take that answer?
Hey, Todd, I can take that one. I think it really depends on the institution. Some institutions, financial institutions, lending institutions, have it to where you can delegate the amount of payment to principal only to reduce your principal balance. But most of them focus on making money for the company. And the easiest way to do that is to not let you do things like tear down your principal balance online. So they make you make that call. A lot of times, if you have a brick and mortar bank, you can go straight up to the bank and tell them that it's principal only. You don't have to sit on hold, and it makes it a lot easier for you to pay down that debt a lot quicker.
Thank you, Austin. And I think also it depends on what type of loan you're paying. So if it's a mortgage, for instance, most companies will automatically roll that into the principal. If it's a credit card, it may not. If it's a car payment, it may not. It just depends on the type of loan. So I think that's why we say always state verbally, please apply the extra to the principal, so that there's no misunderstanding of how it should be applied. Anybody else have any input on that?
Well, I just wanted to talk. I see it says highest interest rate debt. There, believe it or not, picking up the telephone and explaining, especially if you've had a loan for a period of time, that you can ask for an interest rate reduction. I don't know if people know that there are people or banks or companies out there, after seeing your payment history, will reduce your interest rates. That happens a lot, and I don't think people know they can call and ask.
Awesome.
You have absolutely nothing to lose, because if they say no, then you're where you are. You have to go to another method of paying. But if they say yes, you get to reduce the rate of interest, and your payments will be going toward your principal.
Thank you. Here's another great question. Once you have no balance, zero balance, for instance, on your credit card, you've paid it off, there's a zero balance. The question is, do you have to keep using your credit card to keep them active, or can you just let them sit? So there's nothing wrong with letting your card sit and not using it. The card isn't going to close unless like 2 years goes by or 3 years goes by, and you typically get a letter in the mail saying, hey, we noticed you haven't used your card. But don't be afraid to use your card for a simple gas fill up and then pay the card back to zero balance, because that does carry also on another end, which is your credit score, right? So there's usage. And if you have it actively using and you're managing that debt, it's going to be favorable to you in your credit score because you're managing that debt at a very, very low level, right? So if you have a credit card balance that's $1,000 or $2,000, but you're only using 10 or 15 or 20 bucks, your usage is very low and it's going to help your credit score. Any other comments or feedback on that?
Yes, if you pay it within the 30-day time frame, you don't have to pay interest if you pay it off.
Correct. Thank you.
And I didn't mean, Todd, I'm sorry to jump in, but there was a Facebook viewer who wanted to ask a question, and I think we overlooked it. May I please answer that pretty quickly?
Yes, please.
It says, the viewer wants to know, is the savings percentage after tithing and paying bills, or on what is left? Let me say this. The savings would be definitely be after you made the commitment to tithe. but absolutely include it as part of your bill. Make it a bill. When you pay yourself, you're paying a bill. I just thought I wanted to share that.
Awesome. All right. There's another question that came in here. Let's see here. What are your thoughts about using a revolving line of credit to help pay off debt?
I can take this one. I love this question. It really depends on the type of line, right? So if you have a personal signature line at your credit union or an unsecured line with your bank, those lines are probably going to have pretty high interest rates. It's all going to come down to the interest rate. If you have a home equity line that's at a really low rate and you have credit card debt that's at a pretty high rate, 18%, I would most definitely use your line to pay off that credit card balance, because overall you're paying less towards interest, which means of your regular payment, more of that is going to eat at your principal balance and eliminate that a lot sooner for you, and you don't have to get rid of as much of your money to do so.
Thanks, Austin. Right. So the interest is the cost. And if I can save the cost, my interest rate on my credit card might be 12 to 18%. My interest rate on my home equity line of credit might be anywhere from 3 to 6%, maybe 7%, the worst. That's a cost. So if I'm saving, I'm saving. And I can use that savings to pay off more on my principal. So yes, awesome. I think there's another one that popped up here. Let's see, thanks. Okay, so we'll do some thank yous there. If there aren't any other questions, Ms. Nguyen, I believe you are up.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. All right, fantastic. So good evening, everyone. So the last step in the process is to focus on your future, right? So really important. It doesn't matter what age you are, or you need to take some time to think about what you want your future to look like. So have you thought about any of the following? So do you have a retirement account established? So give you some time thinking about that. So do you have a retirement account established? And then next, if you have children, are you contributing regularly to a college fund for them? Okay, so if you have children, are you contributing regularly to a college fund for them? And then last, are you continuing to invest in your education or certification so you are more marketable in the future? So we'd like to share a few examples and how important answers to these questions can be in someone's life. So first of all, meet Jane. So when she was 25, her boss encouraged her to set up a retirement fund and pay into it automatically every month. Now that she is 42, she can see the value of having that fund established. So it continues to increase, and she has some peace of mind that in 25 years, when she is ready to retire, she can live the same lifestyle she is living today. So let's face it, Social Security as a benefit may not be enough to provide for you during retirement. And let's look at another example. So after Jim had his son, one of his friends encouraged him to set up a college fund for him. So Jim's son is now a junior in high school, and they are looking at colleges. So now college seems like a reasonable option instead of something unattainable. Jim said he was tempted many times to use the money in that fund, but he was glad he did not. So what do you want your future to look like? Because I know what my future is looking like. It really is your choice. So talk to an expert to help you develop a strategy that you will help you meet your financial and personal goals. It is worth your time, your sacrifice now, and the younger you start, the better you have much of this future ahead of you.
Thank you, Lauren. And with that, we conclude our message, and hopefully we've given you some valuable tips in family budgeting. if there are any questions, we don't have a lot of time left, only 4 minutes. If you would get them to either Deacon Johnson or Pastor Cotton, we'll be more than happy to answer those questions at a later date. I want to thank everyone for viewing and participating, and those people, those colleagues of mine who have made this a part of our evening program. I want to thank you. Again, thank you for allowing us to participate. St. Paul, hopefully we will develop a relationship where we're able to give you financial literacy monthly throughout the rest of the year. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Thank you all so much. What a great night this was. Some wonderful information I do want to share with all of those who are viewing us on Facebook as well as YouTube. The workbook is on the church website, www.spnbcgites.org. It is a wonderful tool to get you started. So often we make excuses as to why we can't budget. Don't make excuses until you get in the process. Once you get in the process and you have a goal, you have your why as to why you're budgeting, it makes it a lot easier. I am one who budgets because I have a why when I retire. So thank you so much, Deacon Johnson. Thank you all so much, and we look forward to joining you all next month with another wonderful session of financial empowerment. God bless you all. We love you. We'll be sharing with you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.